everyone, welcome to Kelly and Righty. Simple question. And I feel bad asking you this when it's your first day back on Kelly and Righty without your crutches. Is Arsenal's title race over?
No, Kels. I can't believe you've even gone there, Kels.
Of course it isn't. It was a brilliant final weekend of football before the international break. So much to get stuck in today. Manchester City have now lost 4 games in a row after being beaten at Brighton. Pep Guardiola believes that maybe another team deserves to win the title.
9 points off the top, no wins in 4, Saka and Rice injured. Mikel Arteta says Arsenal have to show their teeth to make the gap up on the league leaders.
Who are now Liverpool. The Reds were the big winners of the weekend with their victory over Villa taking them 5 points clear at the top. Are Arne Slot's team the real deal?
And it was an emotional goodbye for Ruud van Nistelrooy. He hands the reins over to Ruben Amorim, who officially becomes Manchester United manager today.
So much to discuss and so many goals.
Love the goals. Love the goals.
And after all of that, here's how the table looks going into the final international break of 2024. Liverpool lead the way by 5 points from Manchester City. The draw at Stamford Bridge moves Chelsea and Arsenal into 3rd and 4th. And then there's just a point between 3rd place to Aston Villa in 9th. At the bottom, Ruben Amorim takes over Manchester United with the club in 13th place after they beat Leicester. All change in the bottom 3. Wolves and Ipswich both got their first wins of the season. Wolves beat Southampton, who dropped to bottom spot, while Ipswich stunned Spurs to move out of the relegation zone. So what it means after this round of games, and we'll get on to the big title chat in just a moment with Mina Rzouki and Mario Melchiot. Well, it wasn't a great weekend for Arsenal. They watched Manchester City slip up, but they watched Liverpool win and then held themselves to a 1-1 draw by Chelsea. This is what Mikel Arteta said.
Obviously, we had a very clear intention how we're going to evolve the team and what we could do as a team. And that was about making the pieces in the car much better, much more efficient, different, more unpredictable. What we find out is that every day we have to change something big. You know, the engine, the wheels, the steering wheel, because we have problem after problem. But the way the team adapts, normally the team goes down. And this team is an unbelievable energy and spirit and courage to play the way we want to play. So I'm very proud of them.
He's very proud of them, but it's a car whose parts aren't all quite working.
Well, yeah, like everybody's trying to fine-tune their car. And, you know what I mean, we're seeing a lot of teams at the moment with cars that are not fine-tuned enough. That's enough car.
I was waiting for that.
I think that yesterday, one of the biggest thing for me, especially with the game, is when I saw that team, I was a lot more confident about how we were going to play. I think that people saying, you know, dropped a point away from home, when you're going for a title, the main thing is you don't lose. Of course, you're 9 points behind Liverpool, and those are the things you want to try and eat into those. But the fact is, a point at Chelsea, in the current climate, you have to take it, and you have to be grateful for it, simply because you're still in touch. That's the main thing. To lose that game would have been really bad for Arsenal. It would have been a nightmare for them. I thought for them to get the point, you have to take that, and you have to try and take whatever positivity you can. Hopefully players, we see Saka, we see Rice, maybe injured, good time, maybe because of the international break, and then they could come back. Arsenal, remember what Arsenal's record against the top 6 used to be, and what Mikel has turned it into now, getting something from these teams. And I think that with this break, playing the teams that we've played, Arsenal, I think that they should be very positive about that, to move on, because you just got to try and eat into these points that they're going to have to try and make up.
Yeah, and that's maybe the issue around this point at Chelsea. It's not that in isolation it's a bad point away from home against Chelsea. It's that they are now 4 points behind Manchester City and 9 points behind Liverpool. Is that the concern, that the context of this draw?
I mean, the context for this draw is also you're playing, like for Arsenal, playing against a team like Chelsea is in the up, right? They in the momentum, right? So meaning then what Righty said, yeah, it makes so much sense. Away from home, getting a point is a good thing. And even for Chelsea, they cannot look as a bad result, because where they come from, and Arsenal is clearly going after the title race, while Chelsea is going after the Champions League. So there are two different objectives, but both teams, of course, want to win. And the way they set up, if you look at the tactical side, they made sure that both midfielders, you understand, from both sides, you know, Partey and Rice, and then put Odegaard in the middle. And then Chelsea did the same with Lavia and Caicedo.
Yeah.
Set the tone too. And then have Palmer as the freedom in front. So making sure that they didn't get no surprise, because those two can handle either of them. The only key thing what I thought, and we talked about it before, was about what Odegaard did. When he came in the team, I didn't expect him to already be at the... I'm not talking about the ability, but I'm talking about a player that's been out so long and coming back and playing like that. I was like, wow, this kid is really... the way he was demanding the ball and the way they were giving him the ball also, and then still having the key to open up everything. Even when the first goal came, the way he assists and set people up, for me it was like... He's bigger than a miss for them. So that's why it's very good that he's back.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. That's the encouragement for Arsenal going forward, is that they have Martin Odegaard in there now.
They have him, but we're obviously a little bit worried about what's going to happen with Saka and Declan Rice. And yes, Odegaard is really important for them. But I do think their away form is something that needs to be looked at. It's 8 points in 6 away games.
Yeah.
They've only generated 30, coming into this game, they had only generated 37 shots away from home, which is one of the lowest.
That's the problem.
After Brentford. So there's something clearly not working away from home. And that's something that needs to be looked at. I think when you look at the left side, sort of like the overlaps with Martinelli, you do need a Calafiori, I think, would work much better on that, you know. I just worry whether sometimes, even if with Odegaard, then they'll be dependent on Odegaard to create, but hopefully that will free up Saka as well, you know.
But the thing, Mina, you make a great point. The thing with before the injury and when Calafiori came in, we saw how he activated Martinelli.
Yes.
Martinelli, before that, people starting to worry about it. I think there was a little bit of murmuring with Martinelli just even before the game. Fans are getting a little bit frustrated with what he was doing, and even though he had that chance in the first half, he should have done better with. I started to feel for him. When Calafiori's playing, he actually activates him better. He can come inside, Calafiori can go outside. He's got someone to play off. He's more involved in the game. And we all know with Odegaard on Saka's side, when that's working, that's what they do. It's just unfortunate that Calafiori's out at this time, but I was pleased that he scored that. But at the same time, I felt that yesterday, the thing that bothered me more than anything else is that kind of like passiveness when we were winning. We should have pushed up again. I think that we kind of dropped off. Even for their goal, you know, we didn't get ourselves right in the second phase. We found our 2 holding midfielders over the other side of the box. Those are the things that worry me more than anything else, simply because, not only because we're not scoring enough goals, but simply because our defence was so good and we were so tight that we were able to defend that better. That's the worry for me, is how easily that goal by Chelsea. I think the chances and the goal opportunities will come back, Kels, but I think that we need to get solid defensively again.
Yeah, but you know, like what you say also, it's like even Chelsea, I felt like they should have taken more advantage of the situation with Neto and White. Because Neto tested White. White didn't like that. When he was testing him, okay, we're not talking about the way he crossed the ball on Gusto's head, but also before that, he was taking him on and he was unstable. And I think, I think Chelsea should have really jumped on that situation and say, like, leave him there. Don't get me wrong, he scored the goal being from the other side, coming in and scoring. That was a great thing what he did. But that was what you highlighted, was a mistake of Arsenal by all dropping back and not leaving them picking up in the midfield, because they had 2 midfielders playing on the line of the centre halves. But for me, it was more like at that moment, I want to see, like, when you see you having a right defender or a left defender being tested and not as confident, then you got to punch on that situation. You got to go for that. And I felt like Chelsea needed to go for that moment and really go for them and make them know, like, listen, if you are weaker on that side or White is not playing, because normally White doesn't have a problem with anybody that's quick or whatever they are, he can handle it. But yesterday, I felt he was unstable and he even got irritated. They should have gone for it.
Can I ask if there is this not reading sort of the momentum or the phasing of the game? I just wanted to ask a question more about the mentality of Arsenal. Like, you saw against, for example, Brighton. They knew their chance, so they were like, we're going to jump on this because we actually have a chance here. And then they just doubled down on their opportunities. But there is this sense there was a certain level of joy when they came back from Dubai, right, at the time with Arsenal. And they were like, you know, we don't care that you don't think we have a goal scorer. We're just going to score a ton of goals, and we were free and attack-minded, and really there was just a lot of fun, which looked like it took away any fatigue that they might have felt. But now it seems like they're playing for margins, right? Everything is just a choice. Like, let's be safe, let's be cautious, let's be careful.
Let's maybe rely on set pieces or rely on how good we are with that.
But the thing is what was very encouraging was Kai Havertz being back in the middle now that Martin Odegaard's back. You saw the chances we created again.
The one at the end.
Honestly,
could have won out.
But the thing is what people got to understand. What Martin Odegaard missing caused so much problems for us. Not only for his creativity, but then Kai Havertz has been taken out of the focal point and played more as a creative player, not being in the box where he scored all these goals in 23-24. And we've taken that out. Yeah. We took that out of the equation to play him on the left side. Or playing in behind where we haven't got, where we're not creating enough chances, and him playing there, Kels, changed that. It changed that, being a focal point, especially in that Chelsea side with defenders, good defenders, but not as experienced as if they. That's what the Chelsea need for me, a Thiago now, an experienced centre half to really solidify that, because the defence, midfield's good, and the strike and the forwards are good. I think we didn't take advantage of playing more into the Kai Havertz, and I think that the chances will come now. Fingers crossed that Odegaard's going to be fit enough, Rice as well, and Saka after the international break. And I think we might see more chances created and taken. I think Mikel will be very upset about the goal we conceded, because we cannot afford to do that.
And the other thing as well is that the fixture list is going to not ease up in terms of dates, but ease up maybe in terms of the level of opponent. Because Arsenal, I mean, Mino's right to mention the away record, but it's been tough, you know, in terms of the opponents that Arsenal have faced away from home.
I think the pressure comes more with, you look at those games, Forest at home, you look at all of those games now playing against Arsenal, I think you'd have to probably look at, I always look at the games you think you can win. You look at Forest.
We would have said Man United, but now we don't know.
No, but you look at West Ham, they're going through it a bit in a minute. Fulham, again, away.
Fulham at Fulham is tricky. Arsenal lost,
Exactly.
was it last season or the season before Arsenal lost there?
The thing, you look at those, and with the teams that Arsenal have already played, whether it's home or away, they've played the majority of very tough games away from home. These are the games that if you are going for the title, you probably have to win the majority of those games.
Yeah, but those are right. These are all games that a lot of teams are going to sit back and will wait. And that is not always what Arsenal always do. They're going to sit and wait. They almost start the game with 10 men. That's the feeling they're going to give you. And hoping that you make a mistake and they hit you on the break. So Arsenal has to be ready, making sure that don't get exposed. Because if they open up too free, the guys who are sitting back, they're going to punch on you.
You're going to punish.
Yeah, you cannot do that.
The consequence, of course, of Manchester City losing and Arsenal drawing against Chelsea is that Liverpool are 5 points clear of City and 9 points clear of Arsenal after their win against Aston Villa. And it just almost to pick up on the point that you made there, Mario, about, you know, the kind of playing against teams who are just going to sit back and, like, I mean, that was not the case against Aston Villa, but Liverpool have had a lot of those kind of teams in the opening stages of the season. But that's 15 wins in 17 now under Arne Slot. Yeah,
it's Liverpool's to lose now, Karen.
Hey, the gauntlet has been thrown.
What I don't like what people are saying is, Liverpool, but they've had an easy start. You know, you can't choose your start. You just have to knock those games off, build confidence, build momentum, and then what you build is people like Gravenberch's confidence. You know, we look at that Villa game, and Darwin Núñez should have scored a hat-trick. Could have made it a lot easier than it was. But Liverpool are in pole position because they've got the defence with the way they're playing, the midfield, like we mentioned with Gravenberch and everything, and then they've got winners or players that can take chances up top now.
But also you look at the opponents of late, which is Brighton and then Aston Villa, and even you look at the one defeat of the season, which was the game against Nottingham Forest, and look where they are now in the table. And then that draw away at Arsenal, which, as you said, they didn't play great in that, but they got it done. A point away from home against title rivals is not a bad point. So you can even put start to put the games into a bit of context now.
He learns quickly, because you also have to remember the games that you just highlighted against the one against Forest was after the international break, and we all jumped in saying, like, look, you cannot play sometimes the same guys that traveled so long, and he made a couple of tweaks in the next one.
Because he brought McAllister back and then didn't start him in the next one.
You see, and he won that. So in that case, he learned quickly. Because that's how I know his background, you understand, being a Dutch guy. I know that he adapts really quick to situations. And, okay, we will not call him, but talk about him a long time. But Ten Hag normally had that too, but I think Slot is just on a different level at the moment. Why? Because he doesn't try to change too much in his team and try to build off what he has already and then tweaks. And he did that with the international break. The good thing, he now saw like, hey, if I play the guys again, they traveled so long, that's never going to be good. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a footballer. You could be anything. If I travel that long, I'm not going to be able to perform the same level. So for him now to see that, and that's the way Liverpool is playing, like, and also control.
They're slow.
The way he tactically sets up his team is exactly, it's a little bit Dutch.
Well, but what's quite interesting when you talk about how quickly he learns is that style was seen as a little bit flat and stodgy at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And then it kind of maybe cost them against Arsenal in the second half, where they did have, you know, a better sort of chance of going on and winning the game. It feels like he's learned from that. And so occasionally, second half against Brighton, the game against Aston Villa, you see them on the front foot with a bit more impetus going forward. There is a bit more energy in that. He's balancing it. Yeah,
that's exactly, because that's a little bit what our culture is, right? And I'm not saying it's right, because come on, we in England, that's why I enjoy this league. But there are moments that you have to remember. You cannot go full time all the time. More effect, be more involved, and that's exactly what you say.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Slot has recognised because the top team, they control the game, they have control of the game, but what you can also see is, like you say, from a corner, 2 passes, bam, the ball in the back of the net.
But it goes back to Mario's point about learning on the job as well, because the players are getting used to the coach is getting used to the players. And okay, it's 15 wins in 17, but it's only 17 games. And it's the change from game to game, and as you said, Mina, the teams as well.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that also, like, how players benefit is from having a great system, but also intelligent players around you that understand what you're doing. Virgil van Dijk's position or ability in the game also depends on the fact that he does have an outlet like Mo Salah, who can run, who can utilize his body, who can offer him that option to then change defense into attack, right? At the time when they asked Andrea Pirlo, how are you so good in midfield? He said, well, because the guys ahead of me were so intelligent, so they would make all the right runs. My job becomes easy. I look like they. And so that's kind of a little bit like Mo Salah's form right now is making a lot of these guys look like the hero as well at the moment, you know? And that kind of form for a player that you're supposed to say is aging is ridiculous, but it facilitates the job of everyone around him. And you've got 3 runners in midfield you can choose from, if it's Gravenberch or McAllister, or they're all brilliant. And I think
Jones has to get a mention, honestly.
Jones has been fantastic, for example. His ability to pick out spaces makes everyone's job easier, and then everyone looks like they're just playing at top level.
I just think it's interesting looking to what the future holds, because suddenly Liverpool fans will be looking, they'll be thinking, well, this is the last international break of the year. We're 5 points clear of Manchester City. I don't think any Liverpool fan would have, maybe the most optimistic of them, would have thought they'd be 5 points clear at this stage. This was a transitional season for Liverpool, and now they're top, not just of the Premier League, but top of the Champions League as well. And suddenly, optimism, expectation are growing. But what is in doubt in the future is the futures of Mo Salah, like Trent Alexander-Arnold, players that you've highlighted as being crucial for them. If it is, and Salah made the comment on Instagram about whatever happens next. I don't want to start reading into people's minds, but it makes you wonder if those players have it in their heads that this might be their last season. Whatever they decide in January or in the summer, this might be their last season. So while Wolves and Ipswich can take confidence from this weekend's performances and results, not the case for Manchester City. Here's what Pep Guardiola said after their defeat by Brighton.
Well, we have to try to win games again, so 4 in a row. No, I wouldn't say 4 in a row, 2 Premier Leagues in a row. Defeats in Bournemouth here, so yeah, I have to change it quick. Now the schedule become tough, but it's going to happen when the players coming back. So it only can happen to be worse, they're not going to win, right? So maybe after 7 years winning 6 Premier Leagues, maybe 1 year, you know, another team deserves it.
So he's sort of playing it down a little bit there and saying, you know, it's only 2 Premier League defeats in a row. And I just wonder if it's as much about the manner of the defeats. You can look at the Tottenham one in the League Cup and say, look, it was half a team was changed for that one. The one by Bournemouth, the 4-1 defeat by Sporting, and then the defeat against Brighton, particularly that second half performance from Manchester City. Are they trends that are more concerning maybe even than the results?
I think the only reason why we have to look at it like we are, and Pep's right, people are talking about 4 defeats on the spin. In the Premier League, it's 2. And we're not used to seeing that too much with Manchester City. But I just think it's just a good reset, because we know at some stage Pep will go to the what's wrong with everybody? Why is everybody so down? You know what I mean? The fans need to get behind us. The players lost their drive. We haven't heard that yet, but we are going into territory what Manchester City are not familiar with, especially with the players that are missing, especially with the fact that there wasn't any backup plan for some like Rodri. The physicality of the team has kind of gone out at the moment. You look at City, the players that's missing there, Kanji, Diaz is missing, and obviously Rodri. There is this moment, if there's going to be any Kells, to have a go at them, because they do feel weak. They don't feel strong. They don't hold the ball as well as they did, and teams are feeling like they can smell blood with City.
Yeah, but it's also like you know when you play the game, and sometimes you get used to someone next to you, and then that guy falls out. And that guy is like, all the names that you highlighted, it's so uncomfortable. And then, okay, you handle that situation, then another one falls out. So I think that situation for Pep, he knows that this is a test. It's a big one too. Because normally, when we watch them, we say oh, look how great. And we talk, prior to the show, we talked about Haaland. When you're a striker, when you concede and he reacts like that, the way he did, you understand, you could see his disappointment.
Yeah.
And then they carry on, but then you see that things not really clicking together, and you see that little mistakes of the scrimmage in front of the goal. Normally a scrimmage like that, you as a team, you handle that situation. Lewis makes the tackle, and he can't get to the ball, and then Guardiola, they're all around it, but no one is clearing the ball. And that is not a moment of saying a winning team gets their lock or works the way that they can clear the ball. And when it happens like that and they concede, you already know we're in some serious situation. Because for them it's trouble, for someone else it's hey, they're at the top. No, for them it's trouble. Why? Because they're used to winning games.
It's what Bernardo Silva said after their Sporting defeat, which is that Manchester City are in a dark place at the moment. It should be clear that none of us are writing Manchester City off. We've seen too much of them to do that. But there are genuine problems that need to be overcome, Mina.
I think it's actually quite interesting how many people are not writing them off. Everyone's well, this is probably just a stint. They'll come back and win it anyway. We're so almost tired of them winning it because that's how strong they have been. First time they've lost 4 in a row since 2006, though. So that is something interesting to note.
Yeah, and it is 4 in a row.
And it is also only the second time it's happened to Pep Guardiola as a manager since his Bayern days. But at that point, they'd already won the title.
Yeah, and then you could see them sort of winding down towards the end of the season. But this time around, it looks more dangerous. And this whole topic, obviously, of injuries, when you lose players, do you have a big squad? Because this is when your squad depth can come in and you can actually really benefit from a Chelsea-sized squad, right? But then the other time is that you have to consider that Guardiola is a tactical idealist and he wants to work with a small number of people so that he can transmit what it is that he needs right now. But I do think the physicality is a major point. I remember in 2014 when he lost the Champions League at the time to Real Madrid, he called them athletes. And it was almost used at the time, or what it was viewed upon was it was derogatory. Because he was just so uninterested in that. And you can see that rubs off on the team, because Bernardo Silva, in response to Ruben Diaz, who said he was tired after the gym, said, the gym is for people who don't know how to use their feet on the ball.
Wow.
And so this is a question of, when you consider that Enzo Maresca, who obviously trained under him and understands Pep, is so adamant on having Caicedo and Lavia and that physicality in the middle, it goes to show you, because that is a weakness. And Rodri provided so much of that. And when you lose that, I mean, there is a percentage, 73% of wins with Rodri, 57 without. And yes, I mean, we can't cover for the fact that he is a major loss, but there's also major losses all around, even if they did win without him. But now they've lost players all over the pitch and the physicality all over the pitch, and it matters.
So De Bruyne making his comeback, but just to run through that injury list, I mean, you mentioned a few of them earlier. Diaz is out, John Stones is out, Rodri is out.
Akanji
is out. Oscar Bob is out. You know, there are players all over the pitch. But is it more the fact that they've got injuries, particularly in defensive areas, that one position seems to be disproportionately affected?
Sometimes it's the individual that has a major effect on the team. It's not always all of them. It's just, you know, you have jigs. It's like a puzzle, right? Sometimes you can substitute the position and you carry on. Because, I mean, we had moments where De Bruyne was out for a long time while he is one of the key figures for them. But they managed to move around it. Now it's too many. And you highlight, like, if I just name from all of the one, I call one. And that's the one that everybody talks about, is Rodri. Why? Because he can do two things. One, he can bring the calmness in front of the defense. I was a defender, so if someone is in front of me and knows how to read the game and understands where when they have a problem, he plays in that pocket. So let's say the right side, he focuses more on the right. If it's the left, he goes more to the left. But also what he could restart their attack. And they don't have that because now they attack and they have holes. And people go through them. And that's why I think they are really unstable at the moment, right? And I think that's the question.
I think one of the problems they have as well is the fact that they always go so deep into the season in all the top competitions and the injuries are costing. I think that aging of the team. I think that is something that now we are going to see exactly mentally how strong they are, simply because we do expect them to come back, but they are missing some big players. It's not an excuse for Manchester
We should point
City.
out as well that the only season where they've had fewer points than this was 2021, and they won it in that season. So that's why we're kind of we'd be hesitating to say this is it.
But you do look at it, the defensive structure at the minute is something that if you're going to get ready to play against them, this is the time. You look at Kovacic and Bernardo Silva, you know, Rico Lewis. You know, you're talking about players. Like you mentioned, I mean, the physicality is not there. You can roll over them.
They concede from direct, which is something that they tried to read in 2022, and after that they've been much better at sort of avoiding all the concessions and the counter-attack. But I think that's one thing that you have to look at. They've gone from conceding 0.9 to now 1.17. But that's not even my issue. Also, you don't have much going forward. There's no variety in attack. They lost Julian Alvarez. At the time, it was a huge loss when they lost Riyad Mahrez. Now they're without Doku, without Grealish. So they're not even converting their chances because they're still creating a lot. They're just not converting them to the same extent, which means that your defence needs to be really strong.
Very strong, yeah.
In terms of their next opponents, when you're talking about them being vulnerable to counter-attack, in terms of those direct attacks and how vulnerable they look, it's Tottenham. Which feels like, I mean,
So
look,
sad.
this is not...
So sad when you mention Tottenham and people kind of like make those kind of like little smirky noises.
You love it.
I'm sorry.
The thing is, Tottenham will be at the Etihad, which means it's a different Tottenham. You just wonder if that had been at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where they can play that kind of football and do it successfully, it might be slightly different. But then they've got Feyenoord, and then they've got Liverpool on the 1st of December. So it's they've got big games, important games coming up.
You look at all of those games there in the current climate. You maybe look down at Palace, who are not in great form at the moment. I think you look at all of those games. The Tottenham game will be a tough game, and as much as we can say whatever we want to say about Tottenham, you're not expecting that what happened against Ipswich to happen. But what you can also flip, we can say whatever we want to say about Tottenham, you're not expecting that what happened against Ipswich to happen. But what you can also flip on the head is Tottenham can beat Man City, and the way they play, they can beat them in current form. They've done it before when they've had all their players playing. So that's going to be a very tough game, and it'd be a very good game for Tottenham to get themselves going again, because I'm sure there's lots of questions being asked at the training ground this morning about what happened on the weekend. So they're going to need a big result. Playing City is a good game for Tottenham to bounce back, because that was a poor result for Tottenham. All the credit to Ipswich, though.
Just to come back to the issue of injuries at Manchester City, one of the things that Kyle Walker picked up on after the game wasn't the injuries. He was talking about the form of the players who are available. Has that been quite where it should be?
Because they don't hit the marks, what they normally like. Okay, look, if we were sitting here last season, Foden was one of the key figures, right, we were talking about. Look what happened to him, you understand? And it's not like, look, when a player is not good, it's different the way we talk about it. We're talking about now about one of the talented, great players, but gone quiet also. And you have to look at the best, because we're not talking about football and looking at a guy that comes off the bench. No, we're talking about the guys that's bringing it normally. And then he goes quiet. Then you look at other individuals. So that's the thing. The question now, Savinho kicked off the game really well, because he gave some problems to Estepinho. When he started the game, he was really good playing against him, and then later on he took him off because it kind of, it faded down. And I think when they play now, our players now that play against them are not as fearful anymore like they used to. And it happens quickly, because we're still talking about this so quick. And now you're coming right before the winter period. What is going to happen now? Because now is the very key moment. Can they do it? Because if not, things are going to... We know when it gets cold, that's when the season kicks off.
Yeah,
it's true. You feel the chill in the air, and you know that the season's well and truly underway. Do you think there's an issue around Pep's contract not being signed? The fact that it's up in the summer, can that have an effect?
If I'm at City, as a player, and a player with, I'd say 2-3 years, I'd probably be worrying about if he's going to be here. And if I'm a player that Manchester City are interested in, like I'm reading this morning, Zubimendi. If I'm Zubimendi, I'm going to be thinking, Manchester City in this current climate, is the manager even going to be there? It feels like they're at the moment they're on the way down in respects of performances and what they're doing. Is it an attractive place to go at the moment with the manager? The insecurity of knowing is the manager going to be there or not? Is that manager going to be there to give you the success that you're going there for? It's a real interesting time for them, because as well, you cannot not, as a manager or an agent of a player, a top player, say you're going to City without everything that's going on, with the charges, with the manager maybe leaving, with the form. It's not an attractive place right now. So these are all the things that's coming into Manchester City's
still an attraction, but maybe not quite where it would be if you knew Guardiola was staying. But
this is what I'm saying. That's the big thing.
You could argue young players as well, because they've played. I think only West Ham have played more players who are 29 or over. It's not a particularly young squad. Look, they did all right when they were playing players 28 and over last season, but it is a squad that is aging.
And they are being exposed for that. When we talked about Savinho being really good in the second half, I mean, Brighton did it on purpose. They attacked that side a lot more because Savinho wasn't helping Kyle Walker, who is aging in that defence. And then you're exposing a lot of these older guys like Kovacic in the middle as well. You can say that tactically they've 44% on one side, 26 on another, means that was a tactical ploy by Brighton. But when it comes to his contract, I think there's a part of him that wants to do a little bit of what Klopp's done, right? Like, he doesn't want to leave the club in a bad situation.
No.
So this could be a chance for him. You don't think so? Or
No, I agree, because what you said, he doesn't want to do that.
Exactly.
No, I totally agree.
So maybe this is actually, if he finds that they are in a bad situation, that he will be more interested in staying to resolve the situation and ensure the health of the club before he does move on, so that his legacy stays intact as well. So maybe this is actually inspiring for him.
You talked about the tactics of Hertzler, and I think maybe in the coming weeks we'll talk about Brighton in a bit more depth, because it'd be really nice to look at what he's doing there. But that was just, he handled that fantastically in terms of the changes he made at half-time, the substitutions later on in the game. He played it perfectly.
Maybe it's just it's the exuberance of youth. He just doesn't care.
The fearlessness of youth.
Fearlessness, he's playing against Pep.
True.
You know what I mean? He's probably very tactically astute. You can see that with his little team, what he's got around him. He's probably can target the weaknesses in Manchester City, even though Manchester City still created chances. The fact is, he made the changes at the right time, and the changes seemed that the changes made a difference. They played themselves back. They did not panic. They didn't panic, and they played. And their goal, especially the second goal, was a beautifully constructed goal from Brighton, right down the middle. Pleased with Danny Welbeck's involvement in that, and then it was very well planned out the way they beat them, and they should get a lot of credit for that. Brighton.
When Balaba come on,
Wow.
it's the game.
Wow.
Then you look, as a coach.